It's a rough ride aboard a 737 on descent to New Orleans.
We were getting tumbled around pretty good.
A violent thunderstorm has caught the pilots off guard.
Mayday, Tucker 110. We're in the middle of a storm. We're talking about the equivalent of an atomic bomb going off.
Everything went black. All the alarms start sounding in the cockpit.
We lost an engine.
Both engines.
With no thrust, the plane won't get far.
I don't think I will make it. I don't have any power on the engines.
38 passengers suddenly face a terrifying prospect. They will crash in minutes.
Look! That's where we're going to go in?
You got it, my friend.
Unless the crew of TACA Flight 110 can perform one of the greatest feats in the history of commercial aviation.
All right.
Mayday.
A brand new Boeing 737 is making its way through heavy thunderstorms and hail, 30,000 feet above the Gulf of Mexico.
Vamos a tener mal tiempo por un buen rato.
TACA Airlines is a small family-owned operation based in El Salvador. TACA Flight 110 left Belize City less than 2 hours ago, bound for New Orleans. Among the 38 passengers, no one is more eager to arrive in the U.S. than Lee Burmeister.
I'd been down to Costa Rica for about a month, and my appendix ruptured and had surgery in a small little village. It was a scary time. I was really ready to get home.
The heavy weather the crew is now coping with is a big change from earlier in the flight.
I remember that it was a very sunny day when we left Belize. Everything was going well.
Todo iba bien.
It was just like that. It was pretty, and then all of a sudden it was the blackest sky I've ever seen in the afternoon.
They're flying over the Gulf of Mexico in May. At this time of year, the weather is unpredictable. Violent storms can form in a matter of minutes.
Thunderstorms have all types of hazards in them, from the heavy rain, hail, lightning, microburst, wind shear, severe icing. We're talking about the equivalent of an atomic bomb going off. A tremendous amount of energy.
To avoid dangerous storms, the crew tracks the weather with onboard radar. But the technology has limitations.
Airborne weather radar typically operates in an X-band, which is a certain wavelength and has limited power. As a matter of fact, hail is not picked up on airborne radar.
So we will sometimes get hail blowing off a storm, and yet it'll only show up as green or yellow in front of us on the weather radar, not as the heart of a red thunderstorm. And unfortunately, this is one of the reasons we have to try to stay as far away from thunderstorms as we can.
Captain Carlos Dardano was born to fly. At just 29, he's the third generation in a family of pilots.
Anti-ice on.
Since I was a little child, I remember that I was dreaming on being a pilot and being around airplanes all the time.
Captain Dardano has had to overcome tremendous obstacles to earn his wings. 6 years earlier, in 1982, he was flying for a small general aviation company.
I was doing a little air taxi business around the country.
El Salvador was consumed by a civil war, and Dardano found himself caught in the crossfire.
At a little grass runway airport, I was shot by guerrillas in the face.
Badly wounded, he managed to fly his passengers to safety.
We just take off, and I stayed really low between trees, and I flew 20 minutes back to the main airport.
The brush with death cost him his left eye.
I was shot over here. The bullet went through.
But Dardanot did not give up on his dream. Despite his impaired vision, he went on to become a certified commercial pilot.
TACA 110 runway 28, final approach course, continue inbound. Descend at pilot's discretion, maintain 4,000.
Thank you, sir. TACA 110, 4,000.
First Officer Dionisio Lopez has more than 12,000 flight hours. He and Dardanot have flown together many times. Captain Arturo Sole is a flight instructor with TACA Airlines. He's on board today to observe the performance of this new plane. The 737-300 series. The jet was delivered to TACA Airlines just 2 weeks ago.
This hill is going to scratch the paint.
We were really worried about the paint coming off the airplane because this is a brand new airplane in the company.
The 300 is the latest in the world's most successful line of twin-engine passenger jets. It's more aerodynamic than its predecessor. It also features a new state-of-the-art engine design.
When you pick up a new jetliner worth millions and millions and fly it home with a brand new paint job and everything is nice and new, it's not just a thrill for the crew, it's a thrill for the airline too, especially a smaller one like TACA. This was a big, big deal.
50 kilometers from the New Orleans airport, the plane begins its final descent.
They feel like you hit a wall. There was severe turbulence in the cockpit with a lot of noise, with ice hitting the airplane.
Por favor, permanezca sentado con el cinturón de seguridad puesto.
It was awful. Lots of lightning, and the plane was having a pretty rough trip. We were getting tumbled around pretty good.
As the flight attendants take their seats. Flight attendants, please take your seats.
Suddenly, less than 17,000 feet from the ground, the flight becomes all the more terrifying.
Entonces eso, para mí,
It was very strange because it had never happened to me before. The lights had never gone off during turbulence.
medio de una turbulencia se fueran las luces.
Everything went black. All the alarms start sounding in the cockpit. All the instruments went out. So I hit the throttles a couple of times, trying to just go to basics, control the airplane.
We lost power on the engines.
Then I find out that we didn't have any power.
I've got nothing.
The plane has enough speed to glide, but not for long. It will rapidly lose altitude as it does. No power also means no electricity for all the onboard systems. In the New Orleans control tower, Flight 110 disappears from radar.
TACA 110, approach, say altitude. TACA 110, this is New Orleans approach control. How do you hear?
Without power, communication with the plane is now impossible.
It's really quiet. There aren't any engine sounds. There aren't any lights. It feels like you're in a dark room without any power.
In less than a minute, the 737 drops almost 1,000 feet. It continues to fall.
We are dropping at 1,500 feet per minute.
And without power, there is no way to restart the engines.
Well, we knew we didn't have much time to try to find out where to land or what kind of emergency landing we're going to have, or that we're going to have the engine started again.
The altimeter and attitude indicator have backup battery power. Nothing else is working.
The DFU started.
The APU, or Auxiliary Power Unit, is a backup generator that provides emergency power to vital systems. But starting it takes time. And with each passing second, TACA Flight 110 falls closer and closer to the water below.
It was very quiet. You could hear the hail hitting the plane. I was thinking that this was it, that it's going down, and this is my last day.
Lovers, watch the gauges.
Without power to the engines, the state-of-the-art jetliner has become a 43-ton glider.
We were wondering if we can get the APU going really fast. You know, you're gliding down in the middle of the thunderstorm, trying to get the power going.
The view is up and running.
Y cuando regresaron las luces,
When the lights came back on, I was relieved. I thought it was something temporary. No big deal.
sucedió, pero que no va a pasar para más.
The APU is now providing emergency power to the plane systems. But the engines are still not running. To fire up the powerful turbofan engines, the crew must follow the procedure for a complete engine restart.
Fast to idle. Fuel levers off.
The APU can generate the power to restart the engines, but it takes time.
It takes like 30 seconds or so, but it feels like all your life.
November day to New Orleans. Get us out of this storm and onto our runway.
Mayday, TACA 110. We're in the middle of the storm, sir. We need vectors to the runway now, sir. We lost an engine.
Both engines.
Both engines, sir. Both engines.
Understand both engines, TACA 110, roger.
The controller knows he needs to get the plane on the ground as soon as possible, even if that means sending it to another airport.
TACA 110, roger. Turn left heading 280. Vectors to Navy calendar runway 22.
Flight 110 is still 32 kilometers from New Orleans. The stricken plane has a better chance of landing at a U.S. naval base 27 kilometers away. But the plane will not make it to any airport unless they get their engines started.
9:30, hit.
Only 5,000 feet from the ground, the left engine ignites.
Speed.
Okay. Good job. Start working on the other one.
The plane can fly with only one engine, but both engines would be safer, especially in bad weather.
Request a vector back to New Orleans.
Okay, we have one engine back on. Request vectors to New Orleans.
TACA 110, Wilco, fly heading 290. Vector around the thunderstorm to your right.
Meanwhile, Captain Soli is taking the steps to fire up the second engine.
Here comes the other one. And here comes the other one. Speed. All right. And you got both of them.
With both engines back, it appears the crisis is over.
Okay, sir, we have both engines back now. We really appreciate what you've done for us. We are going to go down to 310.
For the engines to come back on, it really didn't make anybody feel that much better. We are still in a mess.
Look, I don't feel any power. I don't feel any power.
Something's wrong. The engines appear to be running, but they're not providing any thrust.
Sucker's not starting.
Then, the gauges show that the engines are overheating. They're burning up from the inside. The risk of a catastrophic engine fire now leaves Dardanot with no choice. He must do something no pilot would ever want to do: shut down both engines for good. Once again,